Dun,
Bum,
dun,
ba,
dun,
bum, bum,
dun,
bum,
dun,
ba,
dun,
bum,
dun,
bum,
dun,
bum, bum,
dun,
bum.
Kilted
Guilty
Balls.
balls.
Woo!
That's
Well,
perfect.
hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Kilted Balls podcast. I'm drinking tea tonight. Who knew? I,
Nice.
I feel like we have a lot of eclectic things that we drink when we're on air.
Yes. I enjoy ginger tea quite a bit. I don't drink it too much, but I really enjoy it.
This is lavender spearmint.
I think that would be amazing.
Yeah. So growing up, I would drink tea every once in a while. My mom always had tea. It was like a thing, Southern people. And when I got older, I stopped, and then you reintroduced me to it with Tivana, and I
Hmm.
got into it. And then, like, my girls kind of like it. And then every once in a while, like this time, I found a tea I like. And, so I'm like, tonight I'm sitting there going, kind of thirsty. I'm like, tea. And I hear it's good after dinner anyway. So,
That's awesome.
bring in some tea. And it was
Yeah,
snowing today. So,
well, that's good. The old
decent.
late April snow.
Late April snow. The snowflakes were like this big. It was crazy.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the tea is funny because it's what's I gonna say? I totally lost my so I had found some ginger tea that was pretty good, and I was like, you know what? I should just make this into a sun tea. I had my little Tivana, like
Yeah.
little probably quart. So I stuck it outside on a Friday, and I came back Monday, and it was like full of mold.
Dang
I
it.
guess you're not supposed to sun tea over a whole weekend.
Oh, I thought it'd
Uh,
be fine.
Like maybe a day,
Who
most of it.
knew?
Yeah. So friends, if you're trying to make sun, unless I could have easily done something wrong, but it was it was moldy on Monday.
Oh, that's so sad. I'm seeing I have my tax notes in front of me. I got to do my taxes, and some of you are like, it's past April 15th ball, and I'm like, yeah, we tend to do extensions around these parts. So,
Yeah,
and
me
somebody
too.
today was like, yeah, I just don't want to do it because I don't want to pay how much like I don't want to pay to do an extension. I'm like, extensions are free.
Hmm.
They're like, what? I'm like, you just click do an extension and they do an extension. Like I go, it's actually painless.
Like if you have to pay for an extension, I owe someone a lots of money.
I was like, the only thing you have to pay is if you think you owe money, you have to
Hmm.
do that because they'll charge you penalties if you
Hmm.
don't. I go, but like, last year I just paid extra when I filed the extension and then I got some of that back. I
Yep.
hope that happens this time, but
Yeah. I don't remember if I gave a shout out last time because I thought we talked about taxes super quick, but I used CoinLedger this year and
yeah.
it was awesome.
Well, and here's my question. How much NFT work did you do this year?
A lot.
See, I don't know if I did any NFT work this year.
Yeah,
It,
early January and February, I was still buying a lot. I was buying a lot of Townstar then.
oh, that's right. You were.
Hmm.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
going to have to look. I think it was last year I bought my NFMs. So I was still doing NFMs and stuff
Hmm.
like that. Um, the big thing is, I've talked to a few people and, clearly people not tax advice. But like, I really feel like with NFTs, until they come out with a ruling, F that. If I'm not showing a loss, I'm probably not going to report my
Yeah,
NFT.
I'm showing a loss this year, so
Yeah.
that
Well, and
was
I also think it's about time, depending on where my taxes are. And I think this is an advantage to some NFTs. We lost money on so many NFTs, right?
good.
And I'm gonna start counting those as loss if my capital gains is high.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
like if I make money, I'm just gonna start writing off those NFTs and just slowly scratching them off the ledger.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll put
exactly.
them in a different wallet. I don't know,
Hmm.
right? But I'm just
Yeah,
gonna,
you could put them in a burn wallet for sure.
yeah, well, that's what I thought. I'm like, or even in the Kilted Balls wallet. Like, okay, I've decided this is worth nothing. I'm gonna write it off. And you
Yep.
now go into the Kilted Balls wallet as a nostalgia item to never be sold again. So
Yep. Just keeping it.
yeah, and if I ever do accidentally sell it, well, then I'll have to pay the taxes then. So
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm kind of over that thought. It was interesting. I had a chat with a buddy today, one of our buddies, all in for NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of saw him and I was like, hey, I went to listen to your podcast this weekend. I was like, I haven't listened to these guys for a few months.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna see what's up. And he's like, yeah. He goes, you couldn't find it. I'm like, no. He goes, we haven't recorded in a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, that's really sad.
Yeah. There was even one of the people that they had on their show,
Yeah.
and I was kind of excited about. It was a NFT game for soccer.
Yes.
So, like, I don't remember if you had heard that episode where you start out, you're like a little club team, you have a little stadium, and like you can, like, however it was, like, they didn't explain exactly the dynamics, but you could build your players up, you could like scout for other players, and then
Nice.
you get better and your stadium gets bigger, and there's all these little things that you can do and you're competing with people.
That sounds amazing.
So I always thought that that would be cool, but even I actually just like 2 weeks ago, because it was just to open tabs. So I went through my tabs and like, do I still need this open? And it was still like, we're working on this. And it had been 6, 8 months. So I
Yeah.
mean, things like that are going to happen in the down market. I've
Well, and the feeling was like I talked to him, like, oh, that's really sad. What's up? And they have these brilliant ideas and these great plans.
hmm
But what they're running into, and we've talked about this before, is they need money to do all of that. And how do you get money? Like you've got to convince people to give it to you. And like I said before, like for us, I'm not doing a Kickstarter campaign,
Yeah.
right? So I'm not helping you, like just go do a Kickstarter. But that's what NFTs for a lot of people have turned into. And I'm
hmm
not interested in cartoony PFPs or anything like that. So I think
hmm
what we're seeing right now in kind of the last few months and going forward is NFTs are going to be almost completely utility based. Like I'm not going to buy an NFT that I'm not going to get money back as we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That actually, it's funny because when I was going through looking at all my NFTs, even though I put it in a Coin Ledger, I did that a little while back
Mm-hmm.
before I did Coin Ledger, but like you just put in your MetaMask wallet and it calculated all that stuff. But anyways, um, I was looking back in all the stuff, like I was selling stuff and buying other things, and it was just like I was just sitting here shaking my head, like, why would I mean, like at the time I was super excited, but like, why didn't I take a step back and think, even like the nonconformist ducks, like
Yes.
that was the ETH. I've got 60 or 80 hell ducks.
Yeah.
You never know. I mean, that's a community, and actually funny today, I think it was on BitBoy, they were talking about they think there'll be another PFP run in the as the bull market's happening. There'll be all the new people who will be excited about it. But even, I mean, look at there's even more to pick from now than there was
Yeah.
then. So
Well,
who
it'll be
knows? Like
purely
that
community
gonna win?
based.
Yeah.
Right. So like the non-code ducks, they have a really good following and a
hmm
really good community, and they're still engaged with people. So
hmm
I could see them kind of lasting, whereas something like Lucky Manakee, their
Yeah.
community is still there, but it's not big. So
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. There's still people in there. Well, there's still people in the 666.
yeah. Well, bitching, but yeah, they're there. Right. Well, and
hmm
and so that's what I think you're going to see a lot of this stuff is people using these as business models, right? Like,
Yes.
hey, we want to increase our mining operation. We're going to let you all buy a partnership. The NFT is your partnership.
Yes. And I think stuff like that's a great idea.
Yes. Like, hey, we're going to buy a condo in New York.
hmm
It's not going to be under timeshare. It's going to be under timeshare ducks. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But
Well,
that's what I'm talking about. Built-in utility.
yeah. Yeah. Because I Am Sloth just had a drop today. And I had wanted one. I was debating, like, do I need another cartoony PFP? Gift
Yeah.
Goats got early access. I didn't have enough in my wallet, so I had to make some transfers and stuff. And then I was like, why? Like, I mean, he's a cool guy. He seems really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, but it's been almost a year that I'm waiting for that artwork that I got from him, because remember he was moving.
Yes.
And I was like, sure. And actually the last time I reached out, he sent me like a video message. He's like, sorry, I've been busy. And I mean, that's fine. I just like, I'm just kind of, I know I'll see him at VCon.
Right,
Like, so,
right.
but, yeah, it's just, I didn't feel like making the transfers and I didn't feel like having
Did you
another
tell him to
PFP.
just bring it to VCon?
No, because I didn't want to have to put it in my Kia to drive home.
We can put it in my
It's like
van to
six
drive
foot,
home.
it's like a 6 foot painting.
Yeah, my van will hold it,
Awesome. Maybe
and
I
then I
should
can
just go.
drive it to North Carolina after
There you go.
graduation. Actually, you'll be back up for graduation in like a month,
Hmm.
so it'll work out.
Then I'll have to
Um,
put it in my van. No, he just sent it to me. I already paid for shipping.
nice.
But yeah, I agree with a lot of the PFP stuff. I think is going to go away. I was excited when they were saying they thinks they're going to be another run on NFTs. I mean, nobody knows,
No,
obviously,
but it'd
but
be awfully nice. It'd be awfully
hmm
nice, mainly just so I could make money. Which a
hmm
lot of people still make money on NFTs. It's just not me.
yes, I'm not willing to do that work.
Mm-mm.
Actually, I took out a short today because we were hitting resistance.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, we keep bumping on that top, we'll probably fall through, because there's still a lot of stuff lower. So people are still calling that we could hit 25, but
Okay.
I got stopped out. Oh well.
Oh man, that's sad.
But
So
that's why we set our stop losses.
that is not all this stuff was fun, but that's not what I wanted to talk about today.
Good. I had some ideas as well. Go
You
ahead.
did. Well, here's what I was thinking today that I thought would be interesting to our listeners. Um, and sorry if you're one of our listeners who hates NFTs. Our listeners are all over. Some people love our business
Hmm.
talk, some people love our religion talk, whatever. Um, but what I was thinking today is you and I saw on Facebook, it's our 30th class reunion, and
Hmm.
nobody's done anything. And recently, somebody reached out on Facebook and said, "Hey, we're doing a 30th class reunion. Is Kilted going to go? Is Ball going to go?" They
Hmm.
didn't ask about me. That's a lie. They asked about Kilted for sure. But
And
they know I'll.
Jesse. And
No,
Jesse. Well,
yes,
yeah.
and Jesse, but they know I'll go. You guys are out of state.
Hmm.
Um, but it's interesting because also I was thinking the other day that one of our old high school classmates lives right near you. We were right near her. And this was like 2 weeks ago. I was like, man, I always think I should swing by and see them. And I never do.
Hmm.
And I was like, I wonder how that would go. And I'm like, you know how that would go is we would sit around on the porch or inside and we would just jabber, jabber, jabber. And it'd be like nothing changed 30 years later, and
Hmm.
and it would be great because they moved out of state 30 years ago and
Hmm.
we've only stayed in touch on socials. And I started thinking about the fact of when it was COVID time and we did a Zoom meet with Heather and Jesse,
Hmm.
and how it felt just normal, right?
Yeah.
And our spouses were kind of getting involved and it just felt good, even though we had been separated from each other for years and years, right?
Hmm.
And so here is my pondering, and I don't know if it's us, and listeners, please chime in with your thoughts on this. But for you and I think a couple things. First off, you and I seem to make friends pretty easily, whether it's
Hmm.
online, whether it's in person. I don't know what it is about us, but we make friends pretty easily. But the other thing is weird. I feel like it's weird. And this is what I want to know, listeners, is this weird or not? But you and I could not talk to somebody for 30 years and sit down and just start talking, and we'd be at the same friendship level we were 30
Hmm.
years ago. Like it doesn't shift.
Hmm.
Like people will always be like, oh, I grew apart, or oh, we did this. And for us, it's like, oh, they're not here. So we're talking to these people. And oh, they're here. So we're talking to these people.
Yeah.
And it's not this like ebb and flow of emotions. It's who's ever in front of us is our friend at the time. Does that make
Hmm.
sense? So is that weird? Is that normal? Is that you and I? And if it's just you and I, what makes Kilted and Ball that way and not other people? Or what makes people that way?
I think not having you just throwing this upon me and not
I did
having like a chance
totally just threw it on
to
you.
think about it, I would say a big part of it goes back to not being concerned of any judgment from others. like
Okay.
love for other people. So like I haven't seen Dwayne in forever.
Forever, forever.
Forever. And at our
I have a
20th,
funny story about Dwayne in a second, though.
at our
Please.
20th, Terry was there who I hadn't
Yes.
seen forever. So that was just like nothing. And so we see Dwayne, and I imagine that being the same because just my love of our friendship and what we had, and just love of people. And I'm not concerned like he's going to be like, oh, well, I haven't talked to Jeremy and this and that. Like, okay, like I'm not concerned of any judgment or anything. So for me, like going in, and I don't know if that has to be a two-way street or just a one-way, or if somebody's like totally shut off and they don't want to talk, then that's different. But I
Right.
think if somebody at least wants to talk a little bit, then we have whatever it is that we can overcome that, and it goes right back to day one, or not day one, but
Right.
the
So
peak
you're
of that
thinking,
relationship.
I think that's valid, right? That because you and I approach the world out of a place of love,
Hmm.
right, and caring, that anytime we see anybody, we're approaching them with love and caring. And so there isn't that weird feeling because
Hmm.
it's like, who cares? We get to see you.
Yeah.
And I like that thought that because we don't ever worry about what people think, we're not we're not putting doubts and fear into them. Like, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, are they mad because I haven't talked to them forever? Should I be mad that they haven't talked to me forever? Like,
Yeah.
we're living in that moment and being like, oh
Hmm.
my gosh, I'm so happy to see Heather today. Like,
Yeah.
that, what a great opportunity,
Hmm.
instead
Yeah,
of
because
being judgy.
it goes two ways. Like people say, oh, so and so hasn't reached out or called, and it's just like, well, have you reached out and called them? Like you hear people say that a lot. Like
All the time.
it goes both ways.
Yes. Well, one of the things I've always been impressed with you, and I've told people this before, I don't know if I've told you, but that's one of the things that I've always been impressed with is Kilted will reach out to people. Like, he'll
I do
reach out.
randomly.
He will randomly be like, oh, hey, I haven't talked to you for a year. I thought I'd say hey and blah, blah, blah. I personally don't do that, right? Like, if someone's not talking to me, like Jesse would be a great example. Like, if
Hmm.
Jesse's not saying anything, I don't like reach out to Jesse.
Hmm.
It's not that I'm avoiding him. I just,
Yeah.
for me, always out of sight is out of mind, right? Like,
Yeah.
because I live in such a compartmentalized life, if you're not in front of me or in my realm, I don't even think about it unless
Yeah.
something random happens. Like,
Hmm.
I'm in Mooresville, North Carolina, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Jennifer Palmerton lives here.
Hmm.
I should swing by and say hi. So, like, if it's not that, then otherwise that's not like clicking in my head very often,
Yeah.
unless there's like some nostalgia or something. But in general, that's not like a thing for
Yeah.
me.
I think for me, I mean, maybe it's just how I'm built, but I can't remember the book right now. And if anyone has read this book and that pops into their mind, like please share because it's not coming to me right now. I think it was a Carlos Castaneda, and I
Okay.
can't remember. Anyways, so he was talking about like in like the books like some of the self-help books will have call to actions, and
Yes.
one of them is to forgive forgive everything and everyone and anything that you might have ill feelings of in the past,
Right.
and then also make a list of people who may have ill feelings towards you and reach out
Oh,
to them. So I called Christina.
okay. That one's like barely in my brain. Like, I'm
I mean,
having,
this I was still in Michigan, so it
because
would have
you
only
went through two of them at the same, not the
the
same time,
first
but
one.
okay. I was like, there were two of them and their names were similar.
Yes.
And the funny part about that, just how, so Kilton and I talk a lot that him and I are somehow connected through our
Uh-huh.
shared experiences and our friendships for so long that we tend to be thinking things all of the time.
Hmm.
The first Christina you're talking about, did she have a friend named Christy? I could not remember her name the other day. I was like, wasn't I kind of seeing that Christy girl? And I'm like, I'll have to ask Kilted sometime because he was dating. I met her because he was kind of dating her friend.
Hmm.
That's right. And I'm like, what was her name again? And I should have just guessed Christy because like they were all Christies at the time.
Yeah, there was yeah,
It was a street.
Christy,
Dina,
yeah,
Christy,
but yeah, so that was
Cindy.
like I had
That's
reached out to
close.
her, I had reached out to Maria at that
Yeah.
time, like just to say hi and like
Right.
if they were gonna answer the phone, they didn't hate me.
Right. Right.
It was in my mind. And then not that Maria had any reason to be
If they
upset
even had
because
your
we were
number saved.
because we were all, we had left on good terms. But the other one, I was surprised that,
So you
she'd
talked
answered.
to
And
her.
yeah, we talked probably 5, 10 minutes.
Was she single, married? What's up?
No, she was single. I mean, this would have been, I mean, maybe like 5 years after we dated.
Okay.
And so she would have been like maybe 2 years out of college
Right. Right.
by that time. But yeah, and
I
so
do
that
not
kind of goes
remember.
back to that stuff.
Speaking about compartmentalizing. So first off,
Uh-huh.
how funny is it we were thinking of the same people? You
Uh-huh.
were probably thinking of that and it made me think of it. I don't know, or
hmm
vice versa. So
hmm
that's just a
No,
weird
because
connection.
yeah, I'll have to tell you something later.
So, but that connection, besides that, like I totally drew a blank and couldn't remember her name, which I think is
hmm
funny. Second, I cannot for the life of me remember her last name. I think it, I don't know. It's like not there.
No, I don't remember her. Maybe if I
Right?
thought
Like
about it
it's
for a bit, I
totally
could.
like, and I'm like, how weird is it that you can lose a piece of your memory and it's just gone? It's gone.
Yeah.
Like I
And
can't,
there's all those other memories surrounding it, but like
yeah.
that
And I
little,
literally can't find the neurons that connect. I'm like, where is that? And I was like sitting there scratching my head, going, where, like that name should be in there. But
hmm
again, because I compartmentalize and because I live in the moment a lot of times I don't ask those questions.
Yeah.
So it also might be that I literally never knew the name
Yeah, possibly.
because I wouldn't have thought to ask.
hmm
And some of you listeners are like, how could you not ask somebody their last name? Because I don't think that way. Like I have information that's needed and information that's superfluous because
hmm
I'm a science driven, literal type person. And so if that wasn't a piece of information I felt that I needed at the time, I would never ask it.
Yeah. And back then, I mean, why would you? Unless you were calling someone by their last name, you wouldn't know
Right?
someone's last name unless you were close to them or like people who
Right.
lived on our floor. I can remember a lot of their last
I
names.
can remember Grant Childs' last name,
hmm
but like it would be easy for me to forget somebody like Scotty Novak or Novak. Like
hmm
I could lose that really easily.
Yeah,
I
but you have
didn't. I haven't.
he's down by me. He's over in Georgia.
He is, and I see him on
Uh-huh.
Facebook. So yeah, that's really interesting, like how that kind of works. I told a person, like one of my friends recently, that the way I kind of envision you and I is like
hmm
people can easily take us, put us on a shelf, come back later and get us off the shelf, and we're still the same action figure we were before. I'm like, we don't care, right?
Like we've changed, but the core is still there,
The
and
core
the
is still
happiness
there.
and the love and
Yes.
hmm
And so it doesn't make
that's
any difference.
awesome.
So
Yeah.
if you leave us there for 5 or 10 years, like if I go get my Transformers out right now, I'm gonna be excited to play with my Transformers.
hmm
And that's how we are with people, right? So like if I see Terry and his wife, which I have before at restaurants, like
hmm
I'm like bam, talking and having a good time.
Yeah.
And it's literally like no time really passed for me.
hmm
And
I think that's one thing that I would say that I miss a little bit is
mhm,
randomly running into people like that because we'll do that
yes,
because I mean Gina grew up here, so we'll be at her and some people she's excited to see and some people she's not. So it would be like that same you're far enough away where it's not like all the time, but like if
right.
you're in Lansing or something like that, or if you happen to be in Howell or something, then
Well, and one of the things that I love about visiting you, and this is a weird thing for me, um, but like in this area, like the state, I run into people a lot, a
hmm
lot, a lot, a lot. When I'm down visiting you and I'm in Gastonia, I'm not running into anybody. And it's so nice and it's so relaxing because I
Uh-huh.
know I'm not going to run into anybody. Like I'm just,
It's funny. I was just having that conversation with Gina. We were talking about that. And I was like, before I started traveling, like even if I went weird places, like the first couple years, like doing shows, I would
yeah,
run into random people, I ran into CC once in Detroit Airport, 6 o'clock in the
yes,
morning. Like Terry's little sister was out in California. We hung out. She married one of the call boys and he was a
yes.
Marine or whatever out there. And just like random encounters like that. Like,
I
wait a
think
second, what are you
I
doing?
think part of it is we notice a lot of times because that's one of the things I've noticed recently is I won't notice people because they've aged too much. Like I'll see
Okay.
pictures and be like, oh, that's not who's in my brain.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right. But for you and I, we look at people's faces and them and we're like, oh, I know that person. Where other people are like focused on their phone or focused
Mm-hmm.
on the floor. But I think because of our businesses, we have to pay attention to people's faces.
Yeah.
And so we're always looking at people's faces and then we're like, oh, I know you. Oh, I know you.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like other people at 6 a.m. at Detroit Airport, they're not making eye contact. They're not looking up.
Yeah.
They would never even see people. Right. So here's the thing, and I've got to do some research to see this. I have family members on Facebook that I don't see a lot of, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure everybody does. And so these would be like nieces, like once removed or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so one of them, like their stuff will pop up on my feed and I just kind of ignore it all the time. I don't like even like pay attention. I just scroll.
Mm-hmm.
And the other day, Dwayne was on my feed, probably for the thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I swear, one of the people who I thought was one of my family members is one of Dwayne's family members. I think the name. So catch me on this. I think the name was Tiffany Carr.
Mm-hmm.
So who is that?
Tiffany's his wife.
So they're friends with Dwayne's wife on Facebook, and I've been
Mhm.
thinking it's my niece
That's
forever
hilarious.
and ever. And I'll be like looking at posts going, what is my niece posting now? That's weird.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other day, like Dwayne posted something. I'm like, wait a second. Like that person looks familiar. I think I know that.
That is awesome.
So it's
Yeah, because he
that's
didn't
his
have
wife.
Facebook forever. So I guess he does now. I don't see him posting
That's
much, but
probably how I was keeping in touch with him originally.
hmm
And then like it started appearing in my feed and I just assumed it was a family member
yeah,
and clearly it's
that's
not.
hilarious. That's so great.
Yeah, so that was my Dwayne story for you. I'm like, oops, that's Dwayne. So, yeah. Do
That's
you think
awesome.
this is normal or do you think it's not normal? Like, my gut tells me this is not normal.
Yeah, I think that I mean, what was it? Either last week or 2 weeks ago, Nate said it the best about us. Like, not only are we speaking a different language, but I think that we lead different lives, and hopefully, it's. I mean, it would be awesome if our listeners say, "Hey, this is like that for me as well. This is normal." It would be awesome if
Yes.
it's a normal thing, but I don't know if it necessarily is.
I don't get that vibe, right? Like I don't
Because
get
there
that
is
feel.
there is so much uncertainty out there and so much people living in fear and concerned with their own issues and what's going on in life and stuff like that. And they tend to focus on those things, so it makes it
Right.
more difficult for the everything else.
I saw a message today, right?
Hmm.
A private message, and I have weird quirks about me, people that people just share private stuff with me all the time. It's like a thing. It's like one
Hmm.
of my superpowers. But it was like a text message that they had to scroll like 3 times for me to see the whole text message.
Hmm.
And it was this poor person who was like, I screwed this thing up and I was all worried that you'd be mad at me. And so I kept meaning to fix it, but I didn't fix it. and then you keep talking about it like you think I did it, and it's been 2 years, and now it's been eating me up inside and keeping me up at night that you're going to be mad at me about this, and I'm all worried. And I finally fixed it like 2 days ago, but I didn't want to tell you I fixed it because I'm all worried about it. But then I realized you're going to get messages that tell you I fixed it and blah, blah. I'm like, whoa, like you got way too much fear. And like the person's showing it to me going, like, that's crazy. Like, I never cared at all. And I don't care now. Like, yeah, you apologize, but that was never a thing. And I'm like, that person has been like filling their life full of fear and scaredness and worries. And it literally wasn't a thing. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, you poor person. Like, why are you living that way?
Yeah.
And because one of the things they say about me is I just don't care about stuff like that. Like they'll always say, you don't worry about making anybody mad. And I'm like, well, no. And they're like, other people worry about that. And I'm like, I don't. Like, and I go, and I'm not going to change. Right.
Yeah.
Like, I go, that's just who I am. I am who I am. And if that makes you mad, I accept responsibility for that. And it may hurt me, but it is what it is, right? Like I don't feel that I can change that. And I don't feel like I can change me in those ways. Like the literalness is kind of in my fabric now. I can't unliteral. And people will be like, well, can you try harder? I'm like, actually, I'm like, I can't. So like I don't mind it. Like, so if I thought I wanted to change it, I probably could, right? Like if I felt like I was getting fat, I would probably worry about what I ate. But I don't think like things like my literalness or my honesty is something that I should fix. So I'm like, instead I'll take the deal with if you get mad, you get mad. And those are your feelings.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have to control your feelings. I'm not going to blame you when I feel those ways. You probably shouldn't. And it's funny because I said that to my daughter recently. She was talking to me and she was like, I know how you already feel about this, but I think I want to get therapy. And I was talking to my counselor and they said I probably should. And I was talking to my sister and they probably should. And I was talking to this person and I know what you're going to say. And I'm like, girl, I go, what do you think I'm going to say? I'm like, I'm the one who pushes people to go to therapy. I go, do you think I wouldn't be supportive? Well, because sometimes mom isn't supportive and this and that. I'm like, no. I go, what you'll get from me is the honest truth. Therapy is important. I think people should go to therapy. I also think you should work on yourself and you don't work on yourself. I go, so it comes together. You've got to do both. Therapy is not some silver bullet that you're going to go there and they're going to make you feel all good and life is great and sunshine and rainbows. I go, that's bullshit. That's not how it works. I go, but if you're feeling like your mental state isn't good, I go, let's pick things that we know screw up mental states and fix those mental states. I go, like being on the phone all the time. It's proven that it ruins your mental state. Maybe taking it back. I go, I'm not saying get off, but maybe like an hour here or there. Right. I go, with the therapy, I'm not against your therapy. I go, so I go, you put thoughts in your head about me. I go, and they're not real. I go, you're my daughter. Just ask. I'll let you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's kind of the point.
You're like, I'd like to know those things. Like, at least give me a chance to talk about it.
Right. Give me the opportunity to be like, nah, that's dumb. Or say, yeah, that's cool, sweet, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's that same idea, right? And they should be feeling that way. They're teenagers. Teenagers deal with that kind of angst. So they probably are going to feel that way, right?
And that's part of growing up, especially when you're that age. But if you don't figure out how to deal with it, then it's much harder to deal with when there's other things going on outside of your control.
Right. And I said, hormones alone will screw up your brain the whole time. So it's a hard thing to fix. To fix.
Like my favorite thing. Oh, go ahead.
I'm just going to say, should it be fixed? Like I said that to her, I go, they're like, well, this isn't healthy. I go, it's not necessarily unhealthy. I go, anxiety is also good. There's a reason why we feel it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I go, it's bad sometimes. It's good sometimes. So
yeah. One of my favorite things that Wayne Dyer says is, oh, do I have any control over this? Nope. Then don't worry about it. Do I have control over it? Yep. Then take care of it.
one of the
That's
things
paraphrasing.
one of the things I have to do a lot, and I don't have to do it as much anymore because I got so used to it. It was like a constant refrain in my head. So I'm involved, as people on the know from the podcast, I'm involved in lots and lots of stuff, right? And like we talked about, I have lots of people that I connect with, lots of friends, which also means I get to see lots of issues. I'm also experienced enough, translation old, that I can see how things are going to develop before they develop. I've got experience, right? And I can fix things or not fix them if I choose. And what I've had to really start pounding through my brain probably about 5 or 6 years ago, and now I think it's just become, I'm really good about it, is I'm always like, not my circus and not my monkeys. Not my monkeys and not my circus. Like, these are not my issues. And that hits me a lot, right? Like, I'll see kids, like, I'm not a Karen, right? So I'll see kids like screwing around somewhere, and I'll be like, that ain't mine. That's not my deal. Now, people, that doesn't mean I don't get involved. As Spider-Man said, great power, great responsibility. So like, I tell kids to knock it off. Like, I have that ability. And so like, I'll be at a mall and kids will be screwing off, and I'll be like, yo, be cool, right? And you know, they'll chill. But most of the time I'm just like, that's not mine.
Yeah.
So
you're like, I'm okay with that.
Okay, let someone else deal with that junk. That's not my stuff. And that helps with a lot of the anxiety, right? Because you're like, yeah, that's not my game.
Yeah.
Someone else go deal with that. Right.
But if it gets bad enough, you just take care of it. So
well, if I think it's going to mess with me, that's what tends to happen. Right? If you're going to get into my circus tent, now we got issues. Right?
Yeah.
Now I've got to say, yo, you need to chillax and step back. So, man.
Well, maybe next time or a future. It was one that I think we've already talked about, but I had a great dream about words and using words and saying what you mean. But I think we've talked about that before. But this week I just woke up one morning and it was just like the dream was super fresh in my mind, and just
we've got to talk about it. I think that's super important because it ties right in with this.
But we could next time.
Well, and I think it ties in with this because that's one of the things, like, when people are like, you know, you don't worry about what people say. And it's not that I don't, but I believe that I should say the words that mean what I'm trying to say.
Well, that goes along with your honesty.
Right. Like, I think that's how you're supposed to speak. And like I told somebody the other day, I'm like, ooh, I don't really like that because that's passive aggressive. And they're like, well, don't you think it should be said? And I go, I'm more aggressive. I'm not like passive aggressive. Like, I don't try to make you come to your own conclusion about why that's bad. I just tell you it's bad. Like, I tell you I'm disappointed. I don't like, well, they'll figure it out on their own. Nope. I want you to know I don't want there to be any confusion about my feels.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Keeps
it's a good way to be.
Cleaner. It keeps it cleaner. Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
What is, I preach this all the time. Kind candor is a real thing. Gary V is not wrong.
He is not wrong. It's
better to tell people up front than to let it sit there and simmer until it gets to a point where you're mad and angry. It's better to just be like, hey, that kind of bugs me. Could you chillax? I don't know. All right. Final thoughts, Kilted. We're running short on time.
Another great episode. Yeah. So I thought that was awesome.
Listeners, I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know how you think about friends and how that works in your head. And we'll probably catch you later. This is Ballbuster signing off.
Kilted Dragon Jerry. Love you all.